Hello, everyone. It's Chantel here from Studio Expansion, and welcome to another of our wonderful studio owner superstar spotlights. And today we have a winner for you. I'd love to introduce you to the remarkable Jennifer Dalton. And Jennifer Dalton is the principal of Jigsaw Dance, which is a very large dance studio with over 1,300 students here in Sydney. But Jen has a few more strings to her bow than the average studio owner, which is why I wanted to bring her on to speak with you today. Now, fun fact about Jen was that she was actually a policewoman working for the New South Wales Police Force for about 13 years, Jen, and quite a long time, and specialising in child protection. So not only has Jen founded a phenomenally successful studio, she combines that with this incredible knowledge about creating safe studios. And that is what has led Jen to create the remarkable Dance Teacher Central, which is a training hub of helping studio owners create masterful teacher training programs for their teachers to ensure an incredible student experience across every touch point. So Jen, we are so thrilled and so grateful to have this time with you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So, with your background, both in the police and as running Jigsaw Dance for as long as you have, and now running Dance Teacher Central, what do you feel are the essential kind of, in a nutshell, what do studio owners need to know about helping to make their studios safe for students?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest problem is people get quite overwhelmed with that thought. And because it's so highly in the media, especially at the moment, it's almost quite overwhelming, and you could almost just bury your head because it's too hard, but it's really not that hard. And, we have an obligation as studio owners to keep every single child safe that walks through our studio doors. But I guarantee probably 99% of people already are doing, the majority of what they need to be doing. So we've got to remove that panic and then let's just do it together and get it done, and we can set it up, and it's not that hard. We currently are still unregulated as such, within the industry, but the governments are getting on board and they're starting to really do stuff to help us out now. So all we're really needing to do is put together a portfolio of what we can do as a studio owner to keep our kids safe. Our codes of conduct, our training, recruiting, supervising, so we can show our parents exactly how we're doing this and how this in turn keeps their kids safe. It includes risk management and identifying complaints management. And again, it's all that jargon of, official government language, but it's not that hard. It can be done.
So what are the types of things that you're doing in your studio with your teachers and also training people to do in Dance Teacher Mastery, your program? Like, what are some of the examples of things that we should kind of have on our radar as studio owners to really have, and so that people can kind of tick a box? Like, what do we need to be doing, do you think, on an annual basis or upfront?
Yeah, well, first and foremost is training. So without the knowledge, we can't be expecting our teachers to, be following rules because, they don't know what to do without training. But probably, again, it comes back to common sense. Just, keeping communication open, listening to your kids. If you're feeling suspicious of something, if things don't feel right, we've got to act on that. And then the next step to that is, where do you go? So, so it's up to the studio owner to just know these things. And the information's out there. So it really is just a responsibility to know these things and then to impart that training onto our teachers.
And I guess because it does vary so much from state to state, that's where I suppose that a lot of studio owners do feel that overwhelm of, and we all have the best intentions. Everyone wants to do the right thing, but sometimes it's not as clear cut. Have you found that in the past?
Yeah, look, that is, and again, because I have looked across, not only Australia but overseas and looking at other countries as well to sort of see what their policies are, and they are different, so it is tricky. But ultimately, we just have to. We're creating a child safe policy, which is a document that just tells us exactly what we're doing. We then have our codes of conduct. So it's our promise to our students, our promise to our families, our promise to our teachers. That's all we're putting together, the procedures that we follow, and once it's done, it's done, you know. So, and then just little tweaking there.
So you mentioned training before as a really kind of key component of this. And I guess for, you know, for many of the studio owners that we work with and that I know and you know probably as well, that, you know, I think we're so at capacity with our time just trying to run the studio that often training gets shuffled down the list. And if we do training, it's like, okay, let's talk about the recital coming up. It's more artistic and based than really about the experience maybe for teachers. And so how do you recommend, or if you were to kind of give some ideas for the studio owners who are watching, like what's involved in creating teacher training, and what do you think are the things to really ensure that we're including back to the teachers?
Yeah, look, you know, it's a funny thing, you know, training, because I think as time's going on, it's getting more and more prevalent to become, you know, the training and such. But I always will say to a studio owner, you know, why did you start? What was your reason for wanting to become a dance teacher? What was your reason for wanting your career to teach? And it's the same, sharing my passion for love. I want to teach children. I want to give them confidence. Or even in adults, I want to impart, you know, my knowledge to just really, you know, help them grow and into, you know, have amazing lives. And so at first it's easy because that's all you're focusing on, and you can really hone in and work with them. But very, very quickly it grows. Once you grow, you've got new people coming in, you're probably at different locations, so you almost lose that control, that quality control.
Yeah.
So ultimately it falls back to training. But the problem with that is it takes time. And there's also a lack of confidence with some people, with not quite knowing where to start, not quite, you know, sure what to include. And it really is, the secret's planning. It's just having it planned out before you start. And I always say, you know, I allow for 3 to 5 days at the beginning of a training of the year starting, which whatever that is for you, and just dedicate that time. So have you plan out. I always say, you know, start with how you want to set it out for the year, then fill in your content, then you know, have your dates all set in for the year in advance, so everyone's on board, everyone knows. You can then tweak as it comes up. So if, say, you know, you've got your July training set and you've got, you know, 3 topics already in there, but you might need to throw in something because something imminent's happened at the time, you can, but it's all there. And so it's that's a 5-minute job over a whole couple of days going, what am I going to train on, you know? So it really does come back to planning, and once it's done, again, it's done.
So the weight's off your shoulders. So I mean, from where I'm sitting, it's interesting, there's a huge variation between how much training studio owners do. And I don't know if you found that, like some studio owners I know, like, will do 1 day once a year, and that's pretty much their training. Others meet on a weekly basis, face to face. Like, what do you find, kind of with your experience and your knowledge now, like where do you see that happy medium? Like, if you were to kind of recommend for a pretty average studio, how much training should we be doing for best results?
Yeah, well, you know, it really does come back to a studio's values and what's important to them. And you know, for the majority of people I work with, they absolutely just want to, you know, give the ultimate experience to their families and their kids, and or their students, you know, whatever age it is. I find, you know, for me, my people, I need to connect with them. So we'll have 4 official within the year, 4 official training days of about 4 hours. But I also touch base with each of them, you know, and whether it's face-to-face or a quick online, it doesn't even have to be long, but there's that touch point that it's just so crucial. Just so, I haven't forgotten you, I still am appreciating everything you're doing. Is there anything I can do? And then if there are issues, they can be brought up straight away, solutions given, and then it can generally just be moved on. It doesn't dwell, it doesn't, you know, grow into something that it doesn't need to be. And more problems, more time to sort things out. You know, there's no need to get to that point. And if you've got those regular touch points, you know, your regular meeting times, you know, everyone's on track. And if there's problems, they can be sorted out.
And how does that make your team, like, what impact do you think that has? Like, if you're on the receiving end of that, like, how have you seen your team shift as you've come to really embrace more training with them and more connection and more care, I suppose? What's changed in the dynamic?
It really, it's a hard one to, there has definitely been a change and a shift. And I can remember even just a few years back when things were really crazy and, removed away from, where my focus has always been about them and the studio, and other things were happening that I was having to deal with. And so I almost had taken a step back because I was having to deal with other stuff. But I did see that all of a sudden they sort of start to meander away and they sort of forget because they're not reminded regularly. Remember why you're here. Remember what our promise is, why we're doing this. And so being able to identify that, and again, coming back to self-awareness, so my self-awareness of, hang on, I need to fix something here. I was able then to, realign, and we got everything back on track. And within weeks, I could see it was, they're so important to me. Obviously, apart from running my business when I'm not there, I really genuinely care for them. And, they're like my own. They're like my own children and sisters, and they need to know that. They need to be reminded. For them to give 100%, they need to know that, I believe in them 100% and I'm here for them 100%.
And, just listening to you talk, Jen, you can just completely feel that the importance that you place on the team. And it's fascinating to me, working with so many different sizes of studios and different types of studios. And there's this incredible correlation that I've noticed between the success and the kind of size of a studio and the value a studio owner places on training. It's almost as if, I don't know whether I've got no proof for this, but I just want to kind of pose this hypothesis that the more you invest in training the team, actually the more the business will grow, the more the studio will attract and retain students, and therefore the greater growth you'll achieve. I mean, that's just from where I'm sitting, and truly across the board, the most successful studios I know put so much heart and love and invest. It truly is an investment in their team and in their training. Have you found the same thing, and why do you think that is?
100%. 100%. It falls back to that, because ultimately, if anyone else by yourself is involved, the only way you can to keep it at a level that is acceptable to you is to let people know how to do it. We can't have expectations of someone coming in to do what we think or do what we want if they don't know. And that's a frustration I get. And I feel sorry for some teachers that have to come into studios and they almost get, reprimanded or badmouthed, but it's not their fault. If the studio owner hasn't set their expectations, hasn't given them clear guidelines and training, then how can they perform? And so this is across the board. And so to me, it's the fundamental. It's before anything. And it's not just your teachers. You need to train your students. You need to train your staff. They need to know to be able to perform. So I'm very passionate. Can you tell?
oh, just a tad, Jen. Truly. And if you think about it, one of my big passions is retention.
Yeah.
And what I see is that we spend so much time talking about costumes and about music selection and about concerts and things like that and recitals, that actually what is the core of our business is about retaining and creating the experience and building the connection, which is all things that it's a different type of training. I think studio owners have a concept of what training is, but it's actually not the foundations of what's going to make your business grow. So do you want to kind of talk about that, Jenny? Because that's something I really want every studio owner to grasp.
Yeah. So you're talking within the classroom? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, even external to the classroom, like what happens outside of the studio even impacts on retention in a studio. It's shifting away from just like these are the steps I want you to teach, or this is how I want you to improve your technique as a teacher, to training teachers on how to connect and build relationship and retain students. You with me?
Yeah. And first and foremost, and the first thing I will teach whenever I'm teaching, whether it's training teachers or studio owners, it's self-awareness. You need to be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses, and then where you can improve. And so by identifying that in each individual, then they can then work on what they need. So I talk about the experience. So within my studio, so stepping back to my studio. So the experience actually starts when there's the whole online, experience, knowing what to expect. But from them walking from the car park into our doors, it should almost be like magical, So, and I don't even mean in a fairy way, but there should be, it's eye contact straight away. It's a smile. Even if you're talking to someone else, you should make eye contact, and you can still smile with your eyes. You can communicate with your eyes. It's these tiny little things that make such a difference. The shy dad that walks in every week, I will always say hi to him, just to make him feel it's okay to be there. And so there's that experience, and then there's the experience, with in the classroom. So, it's so much more beyond teaching the steps, and this is where again my passion lies, because you can be the best dancer in the world, but if you can't connect or engage, you're not effectively going to be, passing and sharing on your passion and your talent that you really want to do. And this is where there's a bit of a downfall in our industry, because there isn't the training on that. There's communication, there's the management, behavior management. What do you do if you're in a classroom and you've got a child who's highly anxious, and you've got one who's crying, and you've got one who's stealing the show? There's sort of no training. So unless there's a senior teacher training a junior teacher and sort of imparting that knowledge, which is tricky in a classroom situation, that's where and this again comes back to the experience that the kids are going to have. So I want every single one of my children walking out their door going, wow, that was so great, I had so much fun, and feeling really special. But I also want my teachers to feel I did a great job, I was able to teach them the content, I was able to say everyone's name, and they all smiled, they're all feeling good today, so it's such a package, and that's where it all cycles. So your attention then cycles from that. Your parents are happy from that, your kids are happy from that, your staff are happy, studio owners happy, because it's all happening. So, but it just comes back down to training.
Oh, so beautifully said, Jen. So inspiring, and it just makes sense. Like, I think that's the best thing about your message. It makes sense. It's completely logical. So if we were to kind of put a shiny bow and like with all of your experience, both in the police and running a studio, and now kind of training dance studio owners in how to empower their team, like what would you say is your number one tip? Like, what is the essential magic secret to creating a really inspiring environment and experience in the studio?
Look, simply is to strive for mastery. So we look at mastery as going from where you are to the next level of extraordinary excellence. And if every studio owner can get to extraordinary excellence, then the world will change, because it's then their responsibility to impart that extraordinary excellence into their team, to then impart onto their kids. So it's really quite simple, really.
I just got goosebumps, Jen. I just got all tingly, wow, the world would change. Our industry, the arts industry as a whole, would change.
And it's my mission. That's what I want. I want every single dance educator to achieve this level of mastery. That's my goal.
What a woman. What an inspiring woman. And thank you so much for all that you are doing to help to bring mastery, to bring an exceptional experience, exceptional education to students through dance. And it's truly such a privilege to learn from you, Jen. And we truly, as an industry, we're just beginning to really embrace this whole new way of learning about training our teachers. And I think it's a very exciting time in our industry. And with people and leaders like you involved, we're in very good hands.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Well, Jen is one of our Studio Evolution members, and this is the kind of caliber of people we have in the program. people who are out there trailblazing the industry and creating momentous changes in their studios and striving for exceptional excellence. That's kind of the real essence of what our studio owners in Studio Evolution are achieving. And if you would like more information on joining this incredible tribe of studio owners, please go to studioexpansion.com/evolution. You can find out more about this program and how you too can strive for that excellence in your business. So Jen, once again, thank you so much for having this time with us. Truly, I got goosebumps, so inspired. We've learned so much from you, and looking forward to seeing this next level of your incredible, impactful work happening in our industry. So thank you so much. And also, where can people go to find out a little bit more about your programs and your content?
Yeah, so the name of the business is Dance Teacher Central, so just www.danceteachercentral.com, and yeah, you can hook up there. We're on Facebook, of course, and Instagram. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who might be interested.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Jen, so much. And for everyone, we'll see you next time with more of our beautiful studio owner superstar spotlights. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.